You are the architect of your own destiny. You are the master of your own fate. You are behind the wheel of your own life. You are where you are and what you are because of your own conduct and your own behavior. And it's been well said over and over again that it's not the government and it's not our parents and it's not your boss and it's not your family or your bills. It's you. And if ever you want to look for the reason for the way things are going in your life, look in the mirror. And the truly responsible, high-achieving, peak-performing human being always looks in the mirror. If you want things to be different for you, it's up to you to change them. One of the things I found, and this sometimes is hard to get used to, is the fact that no one else can live your life for you. No one else can make decisions for you. And in the final analysis, no one else really cares. In the final analysis, no one else really cares about you anywhere near as much as you do or will care about yourself. The slogan of the high achiever is always, if it's to be, it's up to me.
We do not look to other people as the solutions for our problems. And what we do is, Henry Ford said, never complain, never explain. In other words, if you're not happy with something, change it, but don't complain about it. Complaining is a sign of weakness, but it's also a sign of victimhood. A person who complains is saying, basically, I'm a victim. I'm a victim. Somebody was talking to the actor who plays Aaron in 24. I had lunch with him on Tuesday with Nathaniel Brandon. He was saying, and he's become a speaker as well, he's saying you can always tell when people have their lives out of control when they talk about what things that are being done to them. He did this to me. She did that to me. They did this to me. The company did this to me. He said they're always saying, I'm a victim. I'm weak. I'm little. I'm ineffectual. I'm a child. I'm a victim. I'm a victim. Please feel sorry for me. And what this does is that it guts your self-esteem. It just takes away all your motivation and all your self-confidence. So even the choice of words can be very bad. The reason that people don't succeed is because they have excuses. You cannot imagine a leader weeping, whining, crying, and making excuses. As Mark Twain said, there are 1,000 excuses for failure, but never a good reason. So one of the things we do is there's no more excuses. Either do it or don't do it. Get in or get out, but I don't make excuses. I mentioned this before, but I cannot be too emphatic, is that you can only give away control. You cannot give away responsibility. You remain responsible for yourself for your entire adult life. You can give away control by trying to make someone else responsible for your life, and you do, and then you wait for them to tell you what to do or what not to do, or to give you a raise, or to promote you, or demote you, or hire you, or something else. Or you can accept responsibility. And accepting responsibility is mandatory. You cannot go any further. You are literally blocked in place, almost like there's a wall in front of you, until you accept responsibility and make the leap and never make another excuse. So we say that the word responsibility can be broken down into two words, response and ability. It is your ability to respond. Well, in our life, every time we respond effectively to a challenge, we grow and become stronger. And we become more tenacious, and we become more confident, and we become more powerful. So the only thing that we can be sure of is challenges. Your life will be one series of challenges after another. They will never stop. They will come like the waves from the ocean, problem after problem after problem. The only question is, can we respond effectively? And if you do, you continue to grow. As soon as we stop responding effectively to the challenges of outside life, what happens is we begin to implode. So whenever you have a challenge, remember, you just say, well, here we go again. This is what I do. I respond effectively to challenges. And the wonderful thing is, and I learned this in the metaphysics, make the decision that no matter what happens, you will respond effectively. And pre-program yourself, so no matter what happens, I respond effectively. No matter what problem I have in life, I take charge of it, I accept responsibility, and I respond effectively. If you make that decision in advance, then when the problem occurs, it's almost like they push the automatic button, you're already set, and you respond effectively. You don't even have to think, what should I do in this situation? You just respond in an effective way. You don't get upset or angry or weep or cry or lash out at other people. What you do is you say, it's a problem, so we respond effectively. What do we do from here? Very, very important. This attitude is the attitude of the leader.
We know that we only feel good about ourselves to the degree to which we feel we're in complete control of our own lives. And there is a one-to-one relationship between the amount of responsibility you accept and the amount of control you have over your life. In the world of work, you will always rise to the level of responsibility you are willing to accept for results. Your income, your status, your security, your power will always tend to be equal to the responsibilities you take on. Emerson said you can tell how big a person is by how big their responsibilities are. This is one distinct area where winners and losers part company. Winners always look upon themselves as the cause of what happens to them. Losers are always blaming someone or something else. Now, why should this be? Well, of course, from the expediency factor, we know that people always seek the fastest and easiest way to get the things they want. And if something goes wrong, the thing that they want is to get off the hook. So the fastest and easiest way is always to blame someone else. But when we blame someone else, to that degree, we give control of the problem to that other person. And we take control away from ourselves, and we become more negative, and we become more frustrated the more we try to make other people responsible for things in our life that we don't like. High achievers discipline themselves, control themselves, to keep their minds calm, clear, and balanced. Interesting about balanced minds. The great psychiatrist Thomas Sass said there's no such thing as mental illness. There are merely varying degrees of irresponsibility. And John T. Malloy, in his book Live for Success, said that the one big difference between winners and losers, and he said, let's not mince words, let's call them what they are, is that losers never accept responsibility and winners always do. When things go well for losers, they blame it on luck. And when things go poorly for losers, they blame it on the system. But winners accept both the credit and the blame for everything that happens to them. Fully responsible adults always look upon themselves as self-employed. They act as if they own the place. They treat the company they work for as though it belonged to them. The worst mistake you can ever make in your life is to ever think that you work for anybody else but yourself. Everybody is self-employed. You are self-employed. I am self-employed. And all peak performers in every field and industry look upon themselves as though they worked for themselves. Even if somebody else signs their paycheck, they look upon themselves as being self-employed. And they treat the company as though it belonged to them. They treat the company as though everything that happened in that company was theirs. They accept full responsibility. If a paperclip falls on the floor, they pick it up. They never say, that's not my job. When they refer to their company, they say us and our and we. This company instead of they and them and the boss and so on. Now, if you can understand this simple principle, you will understand one of the key reasons why people move to the executive suite and move ahead rapidly in their careers and other people go nowhere. Because bosses, managers, executives are very alert to the degree of commitment that you make to your work. Now, a very important point. Because when we go to school in the first grade or kindergarten, we stay in school for 12 years, maybe we go on to university or college, but we get the impression that our education is controlled by and dictated by forces outside of ourselves, the state, the government, the school system. When we come out of school, we sometimes make the mistake of thinking that if we are to be educated further, it is up to our employer to do it. And this is one of the worst mistakes that you can make, because irrespective of whether or not your employer offers you training opportunities, you are 100% responsible for continuing to upgrade your skills, because you are working for yourself in every single case. A good question to ask yourself is this: if you were to take the stock of your personal company public, would you buy shares in you? Are you the kind of stock that is growing in value and profits every year? Are you the kind of stock that is going up in the marketplace? Would you sell stock in you to widows and orphans as a secure investment, or has your stock kind of flattened out in the marketplace? In other words, are you a growth stock, or are you a stock for a long-term hold? Because truly successful people look upon themselves as growth stocks, and they work upon themselves every day and every week and every year to make the value of what they do worth more as time passes. The winning human being accepts full responsibility for continuously upgrading his or her skills, becoming more and more valuable every year. Now, here's another area of responsibility. The winner always asks, what results are expected of me? One of the qualities of peak performers is that they are always very results-oriented. They always ask themselves, why am I on the payroll? And if you're not sure why you're on the payroll, the first thing that you have to do is go and sit down with your boss and ask him, why am I on the payroll? Now, you don't have to use these words, but here's a very simple technique. Take and write out a job description of what you think that you're on the payroll to do. Write out a list of all the things that you're supposed to accomplish and give it to your boss, and have your boss organize that list in order of priority. Which is most important, which is second in importance, which is third in importance, and then always work on what is most important to your boss. Ask yourself, what can I and only I do that if done well will make a real difference to my company? If you own your own company, this question is even more important. But working for another company, this is the key to rapid advancement and promotion. And do what will make a difference. To accept responsibility for specific results, and always results that will make a difference. Winners always focus on solutions. They ask, where do we go from here? What do we do from here? Now, this is a big difference between winners and losers. Winners always look to the future, and losers always look to the past. Winners always look to what can be done, and losers always look at who's to blame. Losers focus on problems, winners focus on solutions. Focused on the future rather than the past, in what can be done versus who did what. The responsible person always approaches a problem as though there were a logical solution, and starts off by asking questions like, what exactly is the problem? Start off by defining the problem clearly, and then asking, what are all the possible causes of this problem? And focus the attention of everyone involved on the future. Then the third question is, what are all the possible solutions? Where do we go from here? What do we do from this moment onward? How can we resolve this situation? Not who's guilty or who's responsible or who did what. Remember, an important point in life is that people make mistakes. All human beings make mistakes because we are anxious to get things and to do things the fastest and easiest way, because often we're ignorant and we don't know everything we need to know, because often we're ambitious and we're in a hurry, because often we are vain and our egos get in the way. Because of these things, we make mistakes. And all human beings make mistakes, and a person who cannot accept the fact that others make mistakes is not cut out for greatness and is not cut out for leadership. Number 5, the acceptance of complete responsibility for your success is the starting point of all great achievement, which is to sit down and say that anything that is going to happen to you or for you in life is up to you. That you cannot wait or hope that other people will do things for you, that you must take complete charge. Now, you will find a very interesting thing, that when you accept total responsibility for your life, other people will help you. And if you don't, nobody will help you, and even if they do, it won't do any good. So say to yourself, what is it that I want to accomplish? Where do I want to go? Where do I want to be? What do I want to have? And what do I have to do to get there? And then take full charge of the process. If you walk, talk, and act like a responsible, self-assured individual, you will begin to feel calm, confident, and positive about yourself. If you will resist the expediency factor, the tendency to blame others when things go wrong, if you will discipline yourself to accept full responsibility for what happens in your life, it will raise your self-esteem and make you feel much better about yourself and everything that you're doing. By practicing the self-discipline necessary to refrain from blaming anyone for anything, you will develop courage, character, and self-esteem. If you do what successful people do, you will be successful too, and all successful men and women are self-responsible.
I hope you'll understand that it's in your best interests to take responsibility for everything you do. I'm also going to suggest that many times it's even best to accept responsibility for the mistakes of others. I can hear you saying, what? Accept responsibility for someone else's mess-ups? Why would I want to do something like that? Just look at a baby during the first few years of life. Every gesture, every facial expression, every tentative word has one message for the baby's parents. The message is, I am totally dependent on you. I can't do anything for myself even if I try. I can't be held responsible for the consequences. After all, I'm just a baby. 10 or 12 years later, of course, as the boy or girl enters adolescence, this message to the parents will be very different. It will sound something like this. Why don't you just leave me alone? I want to be totally independent. I don't want to do anything but think about myself. I certainly don't want to accept any responsibility for anything beyond my own very well-defined needs and desires. It's only when we're at last grown up that the first two messages, I'm totally dependent on you, and I'm totally independent of you, finally turn into, you can depend on me. which is the truly adult outlook. There are people in their 30s and 40s who are still acting like adolescents. And there are even people in their 40s and 50s who are still acting like babies as far as their attitude toward responsibility is concerned. These kinds of people can be hard to have around, especially if you have to work with them. Anybody can have an excuse for absolutely anything, and people have never been better at it than they are today. But the downside of excuses, even good ones, is that nobody really believes them. I don't care what people tell you, if you make excuses, they're going to know it, and they're going to think less of you. But if you refuse to rely on excuses, people are going to know that too, and they'll admire you for it. So many people use excuses, but nobody really buys them. It's our modern version of the fable about the boy who cried wolf. An offshoot of the "I didn't mean to do it" excuse for evading responsibility is the "I wasn't myself at the time" excuse. It's like being at the helm of a ship. You are responsible for everything that takes place on your watch. You must wake up from the dream that somebody else will handle the pressure, that somebody else will shoot those 2 free throws. I slept and dreamed that life was beauty. I woke and saw that life was duty. A strong character is not a rigid character. In fact, exactly the opposite is true. Although it's important to be firm when you know something is right and to maintain that right position even when the crowd is going against you and wants to put you down. Sometimes when the tide has run against you for a long time, it may be that what you held as a certainty was in fact not true in the light of overwhelming circumstances. It's not only right, it's also smart to be able to see more than one way to accomplish a task. It's wise to see more than one solution to any problem. It's a good skill to see things as someone else might see them. Because when the plan that served you so well for so long doesn't work anymore, then it's time to find another way. It's time to bend. It's time to move on, to change, to compromise, to talk. Or you'll risk snapping like a dead branch in a stiff breeze. I don't really think it's less important or more important today to be open to change and flexible in adapting to it than it has been in the past. It's always been important to be flexible and far-sighted, anticipating whenever we can, and when we can't anticipate, being prepared for all possibilities. Sometimes it is best to advance by retreating. Sometimes wars can be won by losing a few battles. And long-term goals can be achieved by accepting short-term reversals. Sometimes it is best to resist like the tall grasses bending in the wind, or like a river finding a new route around an obstacle. A powerful ocean wave smashing onto a beach may wash away a sand dune, but the individual grain of sand simply goes with the flow and is unharmed. Flexibility is simple in theory, but tremendously challenging in practice. It means we have to learn to distinguish between what we can control and what is beyond our control. Practicing flexibility requires great self-knowledge and iron self-control. To be flexible does not mean to be weak, to flounder about aimlessly and confused because we think there's nothing to be done. No, it requires self-discipline.